Welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you. In this video, I am going to go through every single camera that I've used in the past 20 years and why I just might switch from my Sony mirrorless to a Fuji GFX 100S. Stick around. Times change, styles evolve, cameras become smaller, and sometimes, yes, they become expensive. In the 20 years of me being a photographer, I have gone through a Hasselblad 501, a Canon 10D, a Canon 1DS, a Canon 5D, 5D Mark II, 5D Mark III, and then I discovered the Nikon D3S, and then the Nikon D4, and then D4S. Finally, the mirrorless system, Sony A7R, A7R2, and currently I am on the A7R3. Now, why I want to transfer from my A7R3 to a Fuji GFX 100S, I want to get back to that. But first, I want to kind of tell you guys why I transferred from a Canon to a Nikon, and then obviously from a Nikon to a Alpha Sony. Hasselblad was a film camera that was built. It was an extremely awesome camera, but I feel like it was made for the studios. But we used it on weddings, during weddings. At the time, the year 2000, 2001, I think that was the camera to go. Once the digital world came out, Canon released a 10D, which was a 6 megapixels in 2002, 2003. And this was a very good camera to practice on and to kind of have a feel for what digital photography is all about. The 1DS, which was the most expensive DSLR, it was $8,000, came out in 2003, I believe, the same time. And the build quality was awesome. Canon glass is just beautiful. But then Canon thought of it as a way of marketing and saying, hey, listen, we have an $8,000 DSLR, but now to all of the event wedding photographers, we are gonna release a 5D, which is as good, maybe not as strong as a build quality, but it was still up there. I transferred from a 1DS to a 5D, which was great, 12 megapixels, $3,500. You know, I could buy a couple of bodies and toss it in the bag as a backup. 5D Mark II came out, it was faster. I believe it was 4 frames per second and then went to 8 frames per second, 7 frames per second, something like that, which was good. But then I wanted a faster camera than the 5D. When I used the Nikon D3S, I feel like it was more for photographers, and I just fell in love with it. It was so fast. And the D4, I just loved it. You know, I love the D3S the most. For some reason, that camera, the body, the way it was built, it was awesome. But in the long term, when I started using it during weddings, I noticed me shooting a lot faster, a lot more. I would shoot 2,500 frames, but I would edit that down to 400, 500 pictures, and that would take a lot of my time. I don't want to give my clients the same photos of 5, 6 frames. So I want the best experience for my clients. So that was a little bit more to a point where I needed to decide what direction I want to go with. And also, when the D4 came out in 2012, it was 16 megapixels, and then 2 years later, Nikon decided to release the D4S, which almost had no difference, but I had to invest, and going from $12,000 in 2012, just 2 camera bodies, which was $6,000 each, and in 2014 I had to do it all over again. It kind of got a little bit annoying. But when Sony said, hey, listen, we are the Apple of photo cameras, and we're gonna revolutionize mirrorless system, just like how Apple just pretty much took over and said bye-bye to BlackBerry with the iPhone. I think Sony did the same with the mirrorless system, and the A7R was a good starting point because you get to see, feel, and test out the EVF, how fast the camera behaves. And then the A7R2 was a really good camera. But then the A7R3 came out, it was just perfect, 42 megapixels. It wasn't too high of a megapixel count, it wasn't too slow, fast autofocus. And now this is where I stand. But in the recent couple of years, I've done a little bit more research, and I have shot with the Fuji GFX 100, and I completely loved it because the camera system itself, yes, the body is really bulky, it's big. It's really not that heavy. The Fuji GFX 100S is pretty much a smaller version. So that got me intrigued, and using the GFX 100 and seeing the quality and having the information of a medium format system versus a full frame, you know, it does play a big role when I'm designing albums. When my clients want me to crop from a vertical to a horizontal, there's only two challenges that I have with the GFX 100S is that I've read that Fuji is not going to release a vertical grip for the GFX 100S. And if this is true, it honestly will break my heart. If you guys know any information about Fuji releasing a vertical grip for the GFX 100S, please let me know. Comment below, because from wherever I read, it says that Fuji is not going to release a vertical grip, which I think they should. You know, whoever wants, you know, preference of photographers wants to attach the vertical grip, why not? Because I shoot 90% of my photos vertical. Another thing is that got me sold with the Fuji versus the Sony is the 80mm 1.7, which converts to a 63mm 1.4. Now that lens, just that lens alone, if it's fast enough, that's another thing. It needs to be fast, just like my 50, Sony, and Zeiss. If it's fast enough where I could keep up with my subject, that would pretty much be it. You know, I wouldn't mind the vertical grip as much as the 80mm 1.7 being almost as fast as my 50mm Sony and Zeiss, because there I'm gonna have a medium format system where, you know, my ISO levels are gonna be a lot more finer. My information going from a 14-bit color to a 16-bit color, you know, providing this huge quality of, you know, fine quality of images to my clients is extremely important for me, because I never try to settle with Canon. I never tried to settle with Nikon. And even though Sony is so great, the new release of the A1, I'm sure that camera is going to be amazing. I might even purchase one, but I just feel like the medium GFX 100S is my next camera. Once the GFX 100S is in my hands in second week of March, I will do my very best to give you guys another video. If you guys get a chance, give me a thumbs up on this video, because that will encourage me to do more videos. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and I will see you in the next one.